Hi guys, Pete here. Thanks for joining us again for the Southern Media Podcast. Today we've got Toby Biddle, a UX gun and research gun. For those that don't know what UX is, you'll learn very soon. Toby comes from a large service, used to be the biggest in Australia, U1 Group. He then created a product called Loop11, and now he's at LT Agency heading up the UX and research team. Welcome, Toby.
Thank you, Peter. Good to be here.
Mate, let's start about yourself first. I'll ask some questions. I usually say that you can talk a little bit. I might probe you a bit more directly. Maybe tell us some things you do outside of work, away from the desk and the screen, and what are you into and what are you passionate about? And
Okay. Well, outside of work, I run a lot. I'm an avid runner. I do a lot of fun runs. I think the last 5 years or so, I've probably done 7, 8, 9 fun runs each year. It's a series of fun runs that I do. I only do 5K these days, so they're not very long. Most people do, marathons, but I used to do 10K fun runs, but a few years ago, I injured my hip, got an old man kind of geriatric hip going on at the moment. So I cut the 10K down to 5K. 5K is a bit of a sprint, it's over and done within 20 odd minutes. So, they're fun for me. I did one on just the Sunday just gone. My goal is to always try and come top 3 in my age group. I won't tell you what my age group is. You can just guess. Which I did. I came third on Sunday, which is really good. Even though my time was about a minute slower than the prior years I'd done it, I still came third. So, that's something I'm really passionate about. I run twice a week. I'm trying to keep fit and healthy. I've got 2 teenage boys who, I've got to try and keep up with. I don't know. What else do I do? Running's probably the bigger passion that I have. I love good food. I love good wine.
yep,
I love spirits. I love tequila. I love bourbon and whiskey.
the finer things in life.
The finer things in life. So
So you got the ultimate balance of health and good time.
well, that's it. Yeah, with all the great food and the alcohol that I eat and drink, I got to keep healthy on the other side somehow. So, running's the thing that I guess I do for that.
Being a new dad myself, and you having kids that are much older, any advice you give to the dads out there that have teenage boys or are just starting a family of their own?
Mate, I don't know. Just enjoy it. It's hard work. It's life changing. But there's an awful lot of joy and fun that you can have, particularly with young kids. I know yours is under 1 at the moment, so that's a really fun time. And as they get older, introducing them to all the wonders of the world is a fun thing to do. Just enjoy it. Yeah. It's hard along the way, but the fun stuff is what's important. Yeah.
Certainly is fun.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing a bit about yourself. Being a runner, we have a lot of health and fitness franchises, as you know, so they love hearing that. I mean, finishing top 3 of any age group is awesome. I can't run. 5K for me it feels like a long way.
Yeah, but you can lift a lot. I can't lift like you.
Yeah,
Mate. Yeah.
that's true. Anyway, but all good. I think, so I think if we approach this, you're in a really unique space. If you're from the space, you understand what UX and research is. If you're not, a lot of people don't know about it. So just at the top, can you tell the audience what UX is and what it stands for and what it is?
Yep. I'm going to cough first, though. Hang on.
Go for it. Keep that in, James.
Yep. So UX stands for user experience. And what I've done over my 25 odd year career is, user experience testing. So that's all about testing websites, apps, anything digital, to make sure that the people who it is designed for, the users, they can use it properly. So I don't know, if you think about a banking website, you need to get on your phone or you log into your bank account on your PC. You need to make a payment. You need to transfer some money. If that wasn't easy to do, then people would go into the branches all the time to do it, right? Banks don't want people to come into branches. They want them to do it themselves. So they design websites that should be really easy to use for everybody. So that's what usability is about, making sure that those websites and apps that you use are as easy as possible to use, such that you don't need to pull out a manual or go into a store or ask for help. You can just do it all yourself. Yeah.
So you just touched on UX. For the audience that is a bit older, they probably know it from focus groups and all that sort of stuff, or the old school way of doing it. For the younger audience, let's call it franchisees or franchise teams, probably not fully aware of how it's done today, or maybe not aware of how it was done. But can you sort of, tell us a bit of a story of what it used to be like when you started 25 years ago to today?
Yeah. Okay. So one of my really early roles was working for an Aussie startup. This was during the dot-com boom and bust days. I started with them during the boom. And they were kind of at the forefront of doing website research, let's call it, not just usability testing, but all kinds of insights about websites. And I was responsible for the usability testing. And the way that we did it back then was we had a big boardroom. We would bring 8 people in at a time. They would all sit on the perimeter of the boardroom and they'd all have their own PC. And I would be in there as the moderator, and I would probably give them a sheet of paper if I'm thinking correctly, that had a series of tasks on it. On the client website, whoever the client was, might have been a big bank or something like that. Go away and do these tasks for half an hour or so, and then come back and we're going to talk about your experience. And so that's how we kind of tried to understand how websites were performing, whether people could use the website well or not. What were the things that confused them, frustrated them? Where did they get lost? How can we then improve the website for our client? So that was how we did it in the beginning. And that kind of transitioned into doing one-on-one usability testing. And the reason we moved to one-on-one is because in that focus group environment, you can't really observe what the people are doing. And observation is critical for usability testing. It's not so much about opinions and preferences. Traditional market research typically is, but UX research is about observation, watching what people do. Where do they get lost and confused? Not asking them where they get lost, but observing where they get lost and then probing on, well, why did you get lost there? So we transitioned from that focus group style usability testing to one-on-one. And one of the companies that I started, the U1 group, when we were doing usability testing, we would have these labs, we call them labs in South Melbourne, where there would be a room that we would bring one participant in at a time. They would sit in front of a computer, and there would be a room on the other side with a one-way mirror in between. The clients would sit on the other side, watching us in there. There'd be a moderator in there, so me in there, sitting kind of just behind the shoulder of the participant while they were doing the task that we would give them to do. And so they would do a task and, maybe we would say, hey, why are you going there? The task asks you to do this, but you're over there. Explain what's going on. Oh, I'm a bit lost. I thought I was meant to go here, but I can see that I was supposed to go over there. So that observation and that kind of exploration with them, asking them questions, became a really important way to understand how people are using a website and where they're getting lost and why are they getting lost? Why is the design confusing the participants? So observation is key. And if I keep going on to the further transition, we've gone from focus groups to one-on-ones.
Yep.
Now everything is pretty much remote. So one of the products that I spun out of my early consultancy is something called Loop11. It's a usability platform it's subscription-based. People can set up their own tasks that they want participants to perform on their website, then set them some follow-up questions that kind of delve into the experience that they've had. And Loop11 spits out, stats and metrics of video recordings, audio recordings, a bit of artificial intelligence in there for the reporting as well, to help kind of bring to the fore the insights for them and what's working with their website and what's not, what needs to change to improve the design of their website so users can do those things on their website that it's been designed for them to do. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think from the focus groups, the online stuff, and then if we get into and obviously the AI agent testing is the new thing that's come out. Can you talk to the guys? Two things with the AI agent testing, just in general, what is it?
Yep.
And how they would use it through Loop11 or whatever. Just if you talk about AI agent testing and how someone would go about engaging with it.
Sure. So first of all, AI agents needs an explanation. So AI agents, ChatGPT came out with their agent mode just in the last couple of months. What that enables you to do is set a prompt where an agent will go out and explore websites based on the prompt that you give it. So maybe I'll use the banking one because I've already started with it. I need to get a home loan. I want to find a bank that's got the best home loan for my particular circumstances. Here are my particular circumstances. You can set an AI agent to go out and look across as many websites as it wants to find the website or the home loan that will work for your particular circumstances. You can kind of set and forget that. It'll go off and do that while you can be doing something else, cooking dinner, doing some other work, whatever it might be. So that's what AI agents can do these days. For the purposes of business owners who have got websites, these days you need to make sure that your website can cater for AI agents navigating your website. If I think back in the day, there was something called mobile first. It was a philosophy about designing your website for people who are going to use it on a mobile device.
Mm.
You design it that way first, then you move into designing for desktop and maybe tablet. We're going to see a transition from mobile first to AI agent first. Make sure that your website is accessible for AI agents. Make sure that agents can navigate your website
Mm.
so it can bring those results back to the people that are engaging the AI agents to do the research. If your website's not accessible to AI agents won't navigate it. You won't get those results back to the people. So AI agent first is going to be a critical thing. And what that ultimately means is you can run usability testing with these AI agents who can assess your website for all the key tasks that people would come to your website for. To just understand whether AI agents can actually do the things on your website that it's designed for them to do. It's important to do testing with humans as well,
Mm.
but to do testing with AI agents is also critical if you want AI agents to be able to use and navigate your website.
And I think it's, for the users, I guess if I always like saying that think about agents as a human in terms of it's going to be executing used to be the human, they will search, perform the task itself. Now it's a human asking it something and they're performing the tasks, almost to the point of booking an appointment with the mortgage broker to talk about the home loan it found,
Absolutely.
going all the way through. What do you think for people, a lot of people are nervous about AI out there, and I wake
So,
up pumped some days, anxious some days, and everything between other days. So, um, how can you relax the people knowing that, being proactive and getting on the front foot with the testing, what benefits should that give them? If you think about making sure they've got the best website possible to attract the prospects and or meet the needs of their current members or customers.
yeah, from a user experience perspective, um, what what business owners need to think about is making sure that everybody who's going to be using their website, um, hang on, no, let me get my thoughts straight here.
That's right.
I'm getting a bit tongue tied.
Okay.
So what business owners who are managing a website need to be sure of is that their website caters for humans, it caters for AI agents, it caters for the disabled as well, it caters for everybody that's using it. So starting some usability testing with AI agents is a great way to just get a really quick understanding as to what's working with our website and what's not.
Nice.
Um, we would never advocate that you only do usability testing with AI agents. It's a great starting point, and it's a way to get some really quick wins on the board and a quick understanding of what's working and what's not. Um, from there, doing some testing with some humans is critical to do. You've got to get that kind of emotional insight from the humans that AI agents can't deliver. They don't have that emotion yet, perhaps. Maybe they will in time. Who knows? But you need to involve the humans as well. We've done some really interesting case studies that compare the same website with humans navigating the website to AI agents, and the approach to navigation is very, very different. The approach to completing websites is very, very different between humans and AI agents. So you always need to do both.
Yeah. So you touched on humans, AI, and you also touched on disability. Super important.
Yep.
Recently, we've seen some big court cases where franchise websites have been sued left, right, especially in the US, but certainly globally, to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars US, which is significant for any brand.
Yep.
So if you've got the UX testing with humans, you've got AI agent testing, obviously the third accessibility testing. Can you tell everyone what accessibility testing is,
Yeah.
and how do you tackle it? How do you set it up and make sure that you're compliant with those standards?
Yeah. Okay. So accessibility testing isn't something new. It's been around for almost as long as usability testing has. And the legal issues around accessibility testing have also always been there. That's nothing new, but seemingly it might be growing at the moment as well. Accessibility is about making sure that people that maybe are blind, have movement issues. There are a range of people that use different assistive technologies to browse the internet. Um, Things like screen readers. If people are blind, it'll read what's on the screen for them, and so those people can use the internet as well. So making sure that your website caters for people with those kinds of disabilities is also really important. And there are a number of different ways that you can do that. So there are a number of checklists that you can take your website through to make sure that you comply with a number of accessibility principles. That's a great starting point, but it doesn't cover everything that you need to think about. Um, the next step, along the way to making sure that your website is accessible and fully accessible, is to do testing with people that use those different assistive technologies, whether it's screen readers or other things as well. So getting those people involved in the testing is a really important thing to do, to make sure that you cater for everybody, and that you avoid those legal issues that can come up as well. And being proactive with that is the way to do it rather than being reactive. Yeah.
No, I think it's good. I think the proactiveness, I think, across the UX, AI stuff, and the accessibility is a really great way to give yourself peace of mind. So you're not nervous about that stuff. You learn
Sure.
on the go.
Yeah.
So if a franchise brand out there is thinking about website redevelopment or is looking to make sure that the website's compliant, what is website is suitable for their current members, etc. How often should they be doing testing? If it's a new website, when should they be bringing it in? We'll start with that. And second to that, once the website's deployed or it's currently live and they're not really looking to redevelop anything at the moment, how often should they be doing the testing?
Yep. Okay. So if we start with a new build, if a franchise is building a brand new website, we would always recommend that you do testing on the prototype. So assuming you're developing a prototype before you launch the live website, which most people do these days, you might be developing it on a product called Figma, which is a prototyping tool. Figma allows you to develop what we call low fidelity prototypes. So that is just kind of an outline of the website. It shows the basic structure of the website with some of the basic navigation. It doesn't have all the color and life. It doesn't have the imagery. It doesn't have the content. It might have what we call the Greek text or that lorem ipsum content that you just fill in the website. You can test your website at that very early stage if you want to, and we always recommend that you do that. And we would recommend that you do what we call iterative testing. So if you've developed a very low fidelity prototype, you can do some usability testing on that, understand what the key issues are at that very early stage, then redesign it based on the feedback that you've received.
Yeah.
You redesign it and maybe you do another round of testing to make sure that the new improvements are still, highly functional and usable, and we haven't built in to it anything else that's going to create, frustration or confusion. How many rounds of usability testing you do before you eventually launch your website is entirely up to you. You can run a usability study, and turn it around in 24 hours if you want to. So if you want to do, daily usability testing or weekly usability testing on your prototypes, you can do that kind of thing. We would always recommend that once you have a fully functional prototype before you launch it live, that you do some usability testing there.
Would that be the most significant amount of testing on that when it's full done,
Yeah.
or you've got enough information to go, you know what, that's near enough to what we think it needs to be?
Yeah, I think that's a very important place to do it as well. But you really do need to do some of that early stage testing as well, because if you get to that point where you've got a fully developed website that's ready to launch,
Mm.
and that's the only time you do your usability testing, you might discover that there are some major usability problems that if you'd only done some testing early on, you could have resolved at that point. So if you only do testing at that stage, you might find that you've got to take yourself back to the drawing board.
Mm.
So yes, it's important, but you need to do some early stage testing as well. Um,
The second part, the ongoing stuff, like what does my head in a lot is when people get feedback and don't do anything with it. I mean, you're being honest, like how often does that happen?
all the time.
Yeah.
That happens. That happens with every project.
Are they just ticking a box to go, yeah, that's enough, we've done the testing, or should they follow through? And I guess it's a good segue into the ongoing sport. Why should people be more consistent with their testing?
Yeah. Look, there's no doubt that there are some people that I've worked with in my 25-year career who are doing usability testing just to tick a box and say, we've done it, without taking into consideration the insights and the analysis that's been provided and the guidance that we provide to say, this needs to change, or this is a problem, you need to fix this up. So yeah, that absolutely happens. So yeah, my recommendation is if you're going to do usability testing, be prepared to make changes to your design. Otherwise, there's no point.
And frequency? How frequent should they do it?
Yeah, frequency. Once you've got a live website, it kind of depends. If you've got the kind of website that doesn't change over, say, a 12-month period, then, we would recommend that you do testing maybe twice a year. One at the very early stage of the year and then one somewhere throughout the year, just to make sure that things are still working the way that you expect them to. And that maybe that your users' expectations of your website haven't changed, which they can change over time. So for a website that's fairly static, twice a year is probably the most that you need to do. For a website that's changing much more frequently, we would probably recommend quarterly usability testing. So, and this is what we call benchmarking. So we would recommend doing a round of testing at the very early stage of launching your website.
Yep.
And you can set the foundation for those benchmarks. This is how a website performs today. And there are a series of UX benchmarks that you can get, things like the Net Promoter Score, System Usability Scale, and a bunch of others that you can use as well, that give you a number essentially that says this is how my website performs. So once you've got those foundation benchmarks, if you do a round of testing again in say 3 or 6 months' time,
Yep.
in between you're making changes to your website, you can then say, okay, well, how does this compare to the benchmarks that we collected in that first round of testing? Are we better? Are we worse? If we're worse, what's changed? What do we need to fix? What have we broken that needs to change again? So a website that changes frequently, that's the kind of testing that you need to do, looking back at those metrics to make sure that nothing's changed, we haven't broken the usability of our website.
In franchising, one of the big things they do is, and across all verticals, whether it's accommodation, fitness, automotive, quick service restaurants, is monthly campaigns. Whether it's just a brand campaign and or an offer campaign, they're usually changing monthly. Does changing a piece of content on the website, if it was there for a period of time, can that impact the user experience and the ability to convert someone?
I definitely can. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely can. And this is where there are some really big differences between the way franchises run their websites and the way they should be doing, therefore, usability on their website to your traditional corporates. Over my 25-year career, I've predominantly done testing with the big corporates. And there's a very top-down approach to doing usability testing with the big corporates. It can be a case of one size fits all. We're doing usability testing across our website. We only need to do it once or twice a year. And as long as everything's looking good, we don't need to do it again. What I've learned since being at LT for the last couple of months is that franchises are a very different beast. While there might still be a top-down approach, so headquarters says we're going to do usability testing across our brand, the franchisees often have a little bit more influence over what happens with their particular localized website. So yes, there can be different offers. They can have plugins for booking systems or mapping functionality that they want to use that's different to what headquarters allows them to use. So if they're doing monthly campaigns, yes, it's always valuable to test those monthly campaigns and to make sure that if you've included monthly campaigns in your website or you've changed the website design for monthly campaigns, that you haven't damaged the usability of your website. So at that more granular level, the franchisee level, it's really important to do regular usability testing in addition to what HQ might be doing at the upper level.
And that benchmarking, I mean, if you've got, whether it's 2 locations or 2,000, either making subtle changes, whether it be imagery, mapping, various interactions on the local page itself. Can you do benchmarking against the same brand but different locations?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really important thing for franchisees to do. We see in usability circles people doing competitive benchmarking. So how do I compare against my competitors? Really important thing to do, just to get a sense as to, well, what are the things that my competitor's website is doing better than us? What can we take as guidance from our competitors that we need to bring into our own website? So yes, competitive benchmarking is important, but doing benchmarking against franchisees under the same brand is equally important. What you can discover from doing that kind of testing is maybe one franchisee has a website design, has monthly campaigns, has different plugins or whatever it might be that are working better than others under the same brand. So what can we learn from those that are performing better? So those franchise brands can all learn from one another to all improve collectively.
Super important. And I think what are the types of testing you can do on those sites? Like I know previously we discussed, whether it's surveys or heat mapping, etc. Like what type of testing would you recommend franchisees do at that local level?
Yeah. The quickest and easiest one to do, as I think I mentioned before, is AI agent testing. So engaging some AI agents to go across the key tasks that people come to your website for. If we think about a gym, it might be booking a session, it might be finding a local gym, it might be joining, it might be finding out what services the gym offers. Those kinds of key things that people come to the gym for. Do some quick AI agent testing across those core tasks, and see how the AI agents are performing. You can get some really quick wins by doing that and understand what's working and what's not working. From there, if you make some changes and improve that, I would then recommend moving into doing some testing with humans. As I said before, the humans give that kind of more emotional, the more emotional insights. With the usability testing that we do, not only do we record the screen, but we record the audio of the participants. So we ask them to think aloud and verbalize their thoughts. We want to try and get into their head and understand how are you navigating through this website? What are the decisions that you're making to navigate through this website? So if we can understand that, we can understand how the humans might differ to the AI agents, and there are always differences. So I would recommend doing those two things always every year. And the other thing that's really important is to do something that we call UX monitoring. So that involves putting code on your website to monitor your website on an ongoing basis. Through that UX monitoring, you can get things like screen recordings. You can get information on bounce rates, on click-throughs. You can look at different funnels on your website to see whether people are getting through those funnels or whether they are dropping out at some point in time. And again, if you can compare each franchise location with that UX monitoring, you can see which franchises are performing better, which ones have got low bounce rates but high conversion rates. What can we learn from those franchises that are doing good things and roll them out across the other franchise brands as well, or the other franchises under the brand as well?
Powerful. I mean,
Super powerful.
I mean, if you layer that up against everything from your analytics and bring that in as additional layer, amazing. I can't think of one franchise brand we work with now that wouldn't want that. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it's the one real advantage I think a lot of franchises have where they can learn from one another. The big corporates don't have the ability to learn from one another unless you're doing that competitive benchmarking. But doing that usability testing at the franchise level means you can all learn from one another and improve together.
Yeah, that's awesome. From you've touched on a few different times of recruiting agents and doing the testing. Obviously, you still, from a tool perspective, you still own Loop11, which is we definitely use it internally here. Can you talk a bit about the product itself and what it offers people to, I guess, and also the benefits it gives them rather than doing that old traditional style?
Yeah.
So talk about Loop11, what it is, and the benefit it can provide franchise brands.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess as a reminder, the old style of testing that I was doing back in the day was bringing people in one at a time, very labor intensive, very time consuming.
Yep.
What Loop11 allows you to do is do that kind of usability testing, but remotely. I guess it's a bit like doing an online survey where you send a link out to people, you answer a bunch of questions. The difference between doing an online survey in Loop11 is that with Loop11, you're giving people tasks to do on your website. So again, whatever those key tasks are that people come to your website for, you give them those tasks to do, as well as follow-up questions as well, those survey-style questions. But it's about observing what people are doing when they're doing those tasks. So with Loop11, we can record the screen, we can record the audio.
So I just thought about that when that test you did for us for the Snap Fitness guy, and that guy was actually in the bath doing the survey test. So you can actually literally see the person's reactions as they're completing tasks on the website.
You can if you want to. It's optional to record the participant, but we would always record the screen. We would always record the audio. Whether you record the actual participant's face as well is entirely up to you. But in that instance, we did. And yes, the guy was in the bath. But it's super powerful watching people as they complete tasks, and watching those sessions back really gives you an insight into what's going on with your website and how are people actually using our website. It's something that you don't often see. Those website managers don't often get the chance to watch people as they're using your website, but it's super insightful and super powerful to see that happening. Yeah.
And we sort of spoke back about before, one of my pet peeves about people not actioning, based on the results they get.
Yeah.
How has Loop11 made, absorbing results easier?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, again, if I think back to the early days of Loop11, our job was to collect the data and say, here you go, there's the data that we've collected for you. You can make sense of it, right? You can delve into the data and see what the heat maps say. There's a clickstream analysis, you interpret that yourself. AI has completely changed all of that. So we've got a lot of artificial intelligence built into Loop11. And the best one that we have is one that combines the audio recordings of the participant, what they're doing on the screen, and then all of the stats and metrics that we collect about their visit of the website. And there are lots of them. And we combine all of that and put it through ChatGPT to analyze the data. And instead of us presenting the data to the client and saying, you interpret that yourself, what we now do is bring them the insight. So we can say with AI, these are the issues with your website. You need to look at these issues, but here are some recommendations for you to consider to change or improve the design of your website. So, whereas in the past, the people that used to use my product, Loop11, were researchers, they were analysts. Now we've got a lot of designers and developers who are creatives. They're not good at analyzing information. But now they can do that very, very easily with the AI that we've built into Loop11. So we can bring those insights to you. We can literally tell you, these are the problems with your website, and these are our recommendations for changing or improving the design of the website.
That's awesome. So making it easier to understand what the data is telling you, so then you can action it a lot easier.
Yep,
So
correct.
that's cool. With the, I guess when we're thinking about testing from a franchising perspective, we talk about cost a lot. A lot of brands are saying, there's different models in franchising, whether they're taking a rebate or not, or they're taking a monthly fee of the franchisee, they're taking a share of revenue, or there's a range of other options. How do I access, or how can I test with a large number of participants without breaking the bank, so to speak, at any level of franchising?
Yep, good question. So, um, the traditional usability testing that most people do is typically with small sample sizes. So we're talking 6 to 12 participants. That's a good number to get a general understanding as to what's going on with your website, what the key issues are. I come from a traditional market research background, a quantitative market research background, where we would be doing surveys with hundreds, if not thousands, of participants. And that was kind of the basis for me developing Loop11 as well, because we wanted to be able to do usability testing at a large scale with as many participants as possible. That can become expensive as well. But there are lots of ways that you can do usability testing on a large scale, still get those statistical insights, but for a fraction of the cost of what it used to cost back in the day. Really, the easiest and the cheapest way to do any kind of usability testing at the moment is to do it with AI agents. Engaging AI agents through Loop11 at least is, essentially free of charge. You need to pay a subscription fee to use Loop11, but outside of that, engaging the AI agents is free of charge.
Yeah.
If you want to engage humans, you do need to pay them an incentive to do the testing, but otherwise, AI agents, it's free of charge, and it's a really great way to get some quick insights to understand what's going on with your website. Outside of that, even doing the remote testing that you can do these days is a very cost-effective way to get insights about your website. I talked earlier about bringing people into labs and that that's a very expensive thing to do, not just to bring the individuals in, but it's time consuming for you as the person to have to sit there for an hour while you're watching someone, navigating your website. So doing all of that kind of thing remotely is incredibly cost effective compared to what it used to be.
That's awesome. And I think that we touched on different types of testing, and historically spoke about, the early days when the telephone stuff, it's not you, it's always been done.
Yeah.
I know that you helped LT out with one of the larger, can't say I don't want me to, but one of the larger moto brands.
Yep.
Can you talk about the effectiveness of still talking to people, even if it's done on the phone, and what you can get out of that from a benchmarking perspective and just general insights in terms of a purchase?
Yeah. Look, I think talking to people about your product, whether it's a website or whether it's a physical product, is an incredible way to get insights into how your product is performing and whether it's meeting needs. Um, I I can't think of too many organizations that wouldn't want to talk to their users or their consumers about what they think of their product, and that's why we always did telephone interviews and online surveys and now usability testing. Those kinds of insights that you can get from doing that kind of thing are gold.
Yeah.
So that's why we do it. Um, did you ask about benchmarking there as well?
Yeah, just in terms of competitive benchmark against other products and why they purchased their product
Yeah.
versus why they didn't purchase someone else's.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all that stuff is kind of traditional market research.
Yeah.
It borders across traditional market research and UX as well. But again, doing competitive benchmarking is really important to understand, well, what are our competitors doing that's better than us? What can we take from the learnings of our competitor's website, let's say, and incorporate it in our own website to make us better. So whether it's competitive benchmarking or benchmarking against your own website over different periods of time to see how you're going, all of that stuff is really important to do for anyone that owns a website.
Is there any one of the questions I get a lot, and especially this year, especially we get a lot of inquiries through just generic inquiries through our website and or through partners, whether it's integration partners and or service partners. We always get, is anyone too small or too big for you guys? From a testing perspective, can this apply to someone that's got, say, 2 locations versus 20,000? Is there any scale or volume issues with that?
Absolutely, you can test with people that have only got 2 locations. Anybody that has a website, in my view, needs to do some kind of usability
Yeah.
testing, no matter what kind of scale it is. Getting insights into how people are using your website, no matter how big you are or how small you are, how many franchise locations you have,
Yeah.
just understanding how people are using your website and whether the design that you've been provided works or not,
Mm.
is a really important thing to do no matter how big you are.
We spoke about earlier about the importance of actioning the results after the fact. One of the bigger things equally as big as we see in franchising is making sure that we're training and upskilling the teams in the franchise locations and or head office teams to make sure the content they're pushing out is still relevant and attracting the right audience to maximize the goal of converting, whether it's a hotel booking or a gym website, etc.
Yep.
Can you just talk to me about that, about, the importance of training people to make sure they're pushing out the right content and why
Yeah.
they can be an issue if they're pushing out the wrong stuff over and over again?
Yeah, sure. Um, Look, I think anyone that's managing a website, and if we think about franchisees, they're going to have local offers always, and making sure that those offers are working the way they want them to be, which is appealing to their audience to take up the offers. Um, Helping them understand what works with those offers and what doesn't work, yes, is an important thing to do. And again, usability testing can help with that. There's something that we call A/B testing that can really help franchisees understand what offers are working and how an offer might be better presented to convert to convert better.
Yep.
So what A/B testing ultimately is you've got version A of, let's say, an offer.
Yep.
We've got a monthly deal going on. Click this button and, activate your monthly deal, whatever it might be. So that's offer A. Offer B is the same kind of thing, but it's designed a little bit differently. The call to action might be slightly different. The imagery on the B design might be slightly different. With usability testing, you can compare the conversion rate of option A versus option B to see which one converts better. So doing that kind of thing helps people understand and learn, well, what is it about this design that's working better? Why are people attracted to this call to action more
Mm.
than this call to action? So again, that kind of usability testing or A/B testing is really valuable for people to learn about how design can impact conversions.
Awesome. I guess we've spoken about UX testing, traditional versus new, accessibility testing, AI agent testing, the importance of testing during, importance of testing ongoing. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to say to our listeners out there, that the importance of getting involved in UX testing, and don't be scared about AI agents and everything in between?
Um, I don't know. I don't think there's anything else I want to say in particular, but maybe just focus on the importance of usability testing broadly. If you've got a website, it's really important to just understand whether the people that you want to use your website can actually do the things on your website. And there are so many different ways that you can do that, as we talked about, from prototype testing to AI agent testing and human testing, ongoing UX monitoring as well. It's all, really critical stuff to make sure that you do to make sure your website works.
Cool. Awesome. Mate, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Pete.
For those, who put some links down below too, if you want to actually speak to Toby directly, he's happy to have a chat with you about anything. But thanks for listening and look forward to talking soon.